Hello everybody and welcome back to the Aspire review. My name is Charlie Mclellan and on this episode I was joined by John Boulding and Rich George to discuss the Slater Gordon Premiership Game Week 3. We also discuss the West Midlands Regional League win a couple of weeks ago and the conclusion to that season, as well as looking forward to the Villa Rockets Cup game. We also delve into the career of Rich George a bit. We explore why it was the right time for him to step away from the game and why he's come back and how he's enjoying his first season at Aspire. He also picks his dream team of players he's played with. Stick around for that. That's right at the end of the episode and you'll never guess who he's got in goal. We have been trying to increase our social media output as much as possible at Aspire over the season, so please do follow us on the various platforms and also check out our new website, aspirepsc.org. It's got loads of great content and articles about all things Aspire. Please do give us a subscribe and get emails when anything new comes out. With that, enjoy the episode. So, John, how are you? It's been a while since we've done an episode of the podcast. There's not been a huge amount to talk about, to be fair, over the winter break, but plenty to discuss today.
We're back, mate. We're back with a big way. It's going to be a good podcast. Obviously, we didn't have much to do over the winter. Obviously, chill out. But now we're back. We're back with business.
Back with business. And I'm delighted to, for the first time, be joined on the podcast by Rich. Rich, how are you this evening?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're buzzing to have you on. I've been wanting to do something ever since you signed, since the summer. It's just not quite worked out. The stars haven't aligned, but we're done. And I thought as well, since we're discussing things like the West Midlands Regional League and the Villa Cup game today, having our own West Midlandser on the episode would be quite a good idea. Let's get started talking about the National League weekend that happened a week and a half ago. We had to sort of take last week off, have a bit of a break to rest and recuperate after what was a very intense weekend by all accounts, John.
Yeah, it was, mate. It was a mixed bag. Obviously, 2 draws, 2 wins. The last game was quite heartbreaking, to be honest. So I needed that week to digest. If we recap on the games, obviously Middlesbrough, that was an unexpected result for us. Obviously, we go into that game expecting to win, wanting to win, but the performance just wasn't good enough, if we're being honest, and we didn't deserve to win. So the result, I think, was fair. They defended really well. We had majority of possession, but just didn't create anything. And so when you don't create, you don't score, and when you don't score, you don't win. And at the end of the day, that was how it was. Obviously moved on to the Newcastle game. It was tough. We always know against them it's going to be tough. Made it even harder for ourselves when I failed the speed test at the beginning of the game, my fault. And then thankfully I came on at half time and managed to grab the goal that won us the game. Going into the Sunday, obviously we had GBG Knights. Again, we go into every game expecting to win, but that was a game that we were confident we could do. Again, only if we perform that we know how we can. And come away with some good result in that game. And then onto the Leeds game. And the reason that hurt more than the Middlesbrough game is because, in my eyes, we dominated the whole game. Leeds are that team that everyone's like, oh, they're going to win the league. They've got the greatest players in the league, and they have got great players. But I always believe in our ability and the team's ability. And to go, obviously, have the goal disallowed at the beginning, and then to go 1-0 up, I felt we were in control. And it was just that one lapse of concentration from myself, and then I feel Tom maybe could have saved it. Cost us because it was so late on in the game where we conceded that goal. It felt like a defeat, and obviously we know the implication that has on the table. We'd be top right now if we'd won that game. So it's kind of like, oh, what could have been if only I'd done this, or if only someone had done that. But I can be proud of the performance we put in, because I think it was probably one of the best performances we've put in all season.
Yeah, I mean, just from sort of, I was commentating actually pitch side, so had quite a good view, and I thought, you guys battered them. Like, I think people were expecting Leeds to win. In the comments, obviously, we were monitoring the live chat on the commentary. It was things like 3-0 leads, 3-1 leads as the prediction. And to be fair, I said 0-0 before the game. I just thought there was no way that they were going to be as rampant as people thought they were. And it was actually really, really dominant from you guys. Rich, watching the game from the sideline, obviously you weren't brought on, but it must have been just gutting to see that after such a big performance, it sort of the result slipped away.
Yeah, absolutely. The boys played really well and well fought the whole game, and it was just an unlucky miss, concentration that just made it change the game. But the players on the pitch did so well.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you, Rich, about the first game of the weekend, Middlesbrough. It was a really tough one. Obviously, they, as John mentioned, give full credit to their defensive efforts. It was clear they had a very strong tactical setup to try and counter what Aspire do best. Rich brought on as a sub in that game to try and make an impact. Well, first of all, what is the mentality when you're coming on in a situation like that, having seen what was going on the pitch, going on to try and change that, and what do you think? Why do you think Middlesbrough were able to so successfully stop what we did on that day?
I think Middlesbrough are just really well set up in terms of the defence, and coming on. Obviously, I want to make my mark the best I can, and just try and break down that defence and get the goal. I came on and I just tried to do my best.
John, when you're in a game like that and it's sort of you could feel it slipping away a little bit. What can you do when a team's set up so defensively to stifle you and you're playing the way that you try to play? I mean, what ways are there to try and break down teams in situations like that?
It's hard because obviously you train a way that you do and try and play the same way every game. I know obviously you kind of tweak a few things here and there, but overall we know that if we do the things we do best, we score. But we just weren't doing them things that we do best. And when your pickoffs aren't good, most of the time found in goal in their team got to the ball first. And when you don't pick that middleman off, in middleman, i.e. keeper, whoever that central player is, you're never going to get to the back post to finish. And we just were lackluster. We had no urgency. We looked lost. And I don't know what it was. We trained really well. We'd set up what we wanted to do. We changed it up with personnel and stuff, and just still couldn't break them down. And I'm not too sure. I think looking at it now, it's nice to have, if you had a coach on the sideline. Obviously, I'm the coach. Obviously, I'm in the middle of the game. So it's kind of hard to look at the overall side of things and then make some tactical adjustments while you're in the heat of the moment kind of thing. So kind of that, obviously, is a negative impact on the team that you can't have that overall look and make the changes, because obviously you look back now and you could probably, watching it back on the screen, you can make changes and it probably would have worked. But when you're in the heat of the moment and trying to score, frustrations and stuff like that kind of cloud what you could do differently. But overall, I think it's just down to we weren't good enough. And like I said earlier, you're not good enough, you don't win games, and it costs you points.
Yeah, and then going into the Newcastle game, I think after a very frustrating morning and sort of the shock of the result, we just wanted it to go smoothly, didn't we, in the afternoon? Just a nice, smooth start, a game against Newcastle, which is always a great game when Aspire and Newcastle meet. It's one of my favourite fixtures to commentate on and to watch over the last 3 or 4 years, really. And then fail the speed test the first time, then fail it again. And at that point, John, you're just looking up and just thinking, what is going on today?
Yeah, it's my fault. I kind of was watching the screen, but trying to listen to Jeff at the same time. And I'd found it in the first game, and I turned my speed down, reverse, and I passed, obviously, and then I played against Borough. And then I found it again in the afternoon. I was like, I've not touched anything. And so I was watching the screen, and the screen's opposite to what he does on the joystick. So if he's pushing up, obviously it goes down, and vice versa. And I could have sworn he said to me, your speed back down, reverse is too fast. So obviously I come off the speed test, I turned my reverse down again. I was thinking, I've turned it down last game as well. Like, how can it be fast again? It obviously didn't click. And then I turned it down, went back on, passed the reverse, and then fouled going forward. And obviously it turns out that was what he fouled me on the first time. So it's totally my fault. But I knew, obviously, I've seen the boys play without me in the Club World Championship, so I wasn't worried. I know Dan can do a good enough job for me in the middle. I know obviously John and obviously Rich stepped in on the wing, so it was like I was confident that they would hold their own. It was just we had quite a few chances in that first half, so we could have been 1-2-0 up in the first half anyway. But yeah, it was quite good when I come on the second half and actually passed this time.
Yeah, Rich, what is the sort of mentality shift before the game when, John sort of comes over to you guys looking a little bit stressed in the team talk and goes, right, well, actually, that team talk I just gave, scratch that. We're going to have to completely rip up the system and everyone's playing in a different position. I guess it must be, well, a bit stressful to start the game.
Yeah, like I genuinely thought he was joking. It took him telling us like twice before it actually sunk in that it was genuine. I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, obviously we're going to be bricking it in the fact that arguably our best player is not going to be able to play. But I was really pleased with how we performed. I felt like we really held our own. And yeah, obviously it was an absolute relief when John was able to come back on.
Yeah, I mean, I watched obviously on commentary with Ryan, and we said that was one of the best halves from Aspire we've seen all season. It just felt like after the frustration of the morning, the frustration of the speed test fail, there was a real point to prove in that second half, and it was an onslaught. And as you mentioned, there were some great moves, great chances in the first half, but in that second, it felt like it could have been 3 or 4-0, and there would have been no complaints from a Newcastle perspective. And then moving on to the Sunday morning, obviously it's a tough one when you've got that game in sort of the afternoon, the Leeds game, which is all everyone was talking about pretty much all weekend. It's a tough one to get in the mentality. Okay, we've got actually this game first. Rich, did you find that you were thinking more about the Leeds game, or was it sole focus on GPG Nights and just trying to push that out of your head until full time?
Yeah, obviously these games in the back of our heads, and we wanted to work on stuff that we knew would give us the advantage in the Leeds game. But we just take it game by game and do our best, and take that confidence from that game into the Leeds game.
What was really notable that both Ryan and I noticed on the sideline as well is you've not played a huge amount with Jordan this season in partnerships. You've often come on and played with Dan or John Dixon, but you guys had a really strong rapport, and some of the football that you played in the second half was some of the best we've seen this season.
Yeah, I think the regionals have really helped in terms of linking up with Jordan. To be fair, it felt really comfortable, and it's really good that that's an option that we have.
Yeah, and then the Leeds game in the afternoon, obviously we've sort of touched on quite a lot. We probably won't go back over that, but the one thing I did wanted to say was last season, obviously, we played against Teesside, who were the new kids on the block last season, and we got battered on both occasions because I guess we weren't expecting what we came up against. And I think, John, you've been quite open to say that you were potentially slightly disrespectful in the preparations towards that game of Teesside. Against Leeds, though, it was playing against a new team that we've never played before, but it felt like a very different approach. What did you change going into this game?
I think it was more the Teesside games that we changed, and we've stuck to that way. And I give Dan his full credit. It was Dan that said it. Like I say, it wasn't that I was disrespecting Teesside. It was a bit naive to think that we didn't need to work on defence. I thought our attacking ability would be far more superior than having to worry about our defence. And them two games against Teesside proved that that isn't the case at all. We need to work specifically hard on our defence because that's the part that we concede obviously a lot of goals through. And Dan suggests obviously just not overcomplicating it, get just me and him back defending and stick the other winger higher. Whereas before that, we were always trying to drop as a free and then the keeper behind us. And it was always hard to know who was going to push out. And like we gave too many 2-on-1s away that way. So Dan, obviously we spoke as a team, but Dan came up with the suggestion of obviously keeping the winger high and me and Dan doing the rest. And that way we can talk to each other regularly. We know where each other is. And it kind of stemmed from there, really. So, as you can tell, this season, including that Leeds goal, we've let in 2 goals this year, and we've played everyone. And so, to say you've not conceded a goal against Teesside, not conceded against West Brom, let in 1 goal, which was kind of out of the ordinary goal against Leeds, you'd be happy with that, to be honest. Obviously, Greenbank scored against us again, but that was only down to a defensive error from us as well. So it was kind of like the changes we made have made a massive contribution to the team. And so we know Leeds' strength, and that is the power that they possess. So we know if me and Dan were in the right places defensively, we could always intercept them passes. And as the game turned out, there wasn't too much open play. It was more closing them down quickly and then managed to play off the flick outs that Dan mainly got.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also touch on the save that has gone mega viral and been spoken about by lots of people, John. The reflexes on that, I mean, it's an outrageous stop on the line. Are you just working off pure instinct in a situation like that?
Yeah, obviously, it kind of like the way Dan hit it, and then obviously it hit off Tom. It was kind of like I was going backwards and I had to go forwards. And it's kind of like in the moment, you just hope that you can get there. And thankfully, I did. At the time, I didn't think it was such a great save, but I guess everyone's kind of blown it up to what it is. And for me, it's just, I stopped it on the line kind of thing.
Business as usual for you,
yeah. I prefer to do my good stuff at the other end of the pitch. So, yeah.
And the goal you scored as well, I mean, a really delicate finish, sort of down on his front bumper, had to sort of put spin on the ball. I don't see it very often, but very tough skill to do.
When you don't see things very often, it's normally your brother that does it because he's incredible. And that finish, again, I can't explain it. It's the deftest of touches. Like if you put any more power on it, it's going wide. If he doesn't put any more power on it, Ethan's saving it. He's got to obviously make sure that he doesn't clatter Ethan as well, because then he gives away a foul. And yeah, it was remarkable. I can't really describe it any other way.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Right, that's done with section 1. In section 2, we'll be talking about the upcoming trip to Villa Rockets and the West Midlands Regional League victory earlier in the year. Right, West Midlands Regional League then. First year competing in it, champions, undefeated. Must be pretty pleased with that, John.
Championi, championi, ole, ole, ole. Yeah, mate, very happy. We entered that league because our regional league's not the strongest, and I wanted the whole of my team to be able to play against teams like West Brom, like Evergreen, Greenbank, like Villa, because at nationals they don't always get the chance. And so I went into this league knowing that we'll rotate. It won't be the same 4 playing every single game. It will be rotating, and it was just incredible that the results that we pulled off, and everyone played pretty much the same amount of time, contributed incredibly well over the games that we played. And yeah, it was a great league to be a part of, and we're very proud to win it.
Yeah, and Rich, I mentioned earlier that you're our resident West Midlandser. It must have been, first of all, quite nice for you to be able to play in a competition with your club team so close to home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate the lengths that the rest of the guys at Aspire go to come all that way to play in that league. But I think it's what we needed. I felt like in that league, I think it's been a perfect way for us to gel. It's just the right standard for us to experiment and work on our link up play and whatnot. But yeah, I was just really pleased with how it went.
Yeah, and Rich, some big wins over the season. The one that really sticks out to me was when JB wasn't there. Then John Dixon had car issues in the morning. And so the squad was, missing quite a few players. and still we had 3 games in the West Midlands Regional League and beat GBG 2-0, drew 0-0 with Nottinghamshire. But then the game that really stands out to me was a 1-0 win over Villa, who are currently doing very well in the Premiership. Is that one of your fonder memories of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a really big challenge. But I'm just glad that we managed to do what we did. I think there was one game as well where I can't remember who it was against now. We had 3 players. Um, was that the West Midlands or was that actually?
No, that was the southeast one.
Yeah, I'm getting mixed up, aren't I?
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one game where we had 3 players anyway, and we worked really hard on that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that was something I was going to ask you about, actually. That win, I think it was against Norwich, and it was you, Jordan, Sal, had been left basically on your own because there was, I think, England development camps that day for Tom and John Dixon, and then Dan and John were going to England senior camp in the evening, and the 3 of you absolutely ground out a result. I mean, that was just pure grit, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went back to my old ways of dribbling. When I first started playing powerchair football, I felt like that was my best attribute. And yeah, it just went back to that way, and me and Jordan and Sal did the job.
Yeah, very impressive. So cooking in both regional leagues. I think the Southeast, I don't know if we've confirmed to have won it yet, but I think it would take a crazy bottle job to not see that one through and secure the title in both. Upcoming then, Villa away in the cup. Not the most favourable draw, although I will say it's nice to have something slightly different from Sevenoaks because it feels like, at least since I've been involved with the club, we've only ever played them, John.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It seems like we always get them whether it's home or away. But yeah, it was nice to have a change. Would have preferred an easier team than Villa, but we'll give it a good go against them. Obviously, it's in their home patch, but thankfully we've obviously been playing at regional league, so we kind of know what the floor is like. We know the venue, so it's not going to be new to us. So that's kind of a positive. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it. We know obviously the new format with the cup. So we know that we're fighting for a place to play the final derby, and then in turn, obviously the new cup that's going to be at St George's Park. So this is just the first stepping stone towards that, and hopefully we put on a good performance against them, come away victorious, and yeah, hopefully move on to the next stage.
Yeah, that's not a factor I'd considered, but obviously, yeah, we have played at the Doug Ellis Sports Centre quite a bit this season with the Regional League. Rich, does that make an impact for you, having played on a court before? Obviously, everyone's very familiar with the courts at Nottingham, but going into an environment that you've played in quite a bit this season, does that have an impact on how you feel going into the game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the whole process of entering a place that you're familiar with, before you even get to the playing surface, just the familiarization of the place has a big impact. And then obviously, like you said, we've played on that surface before, so we know what to expect. Um, I think after we've trained at where we've been training previously, the floor has been quite an ice rink. So whenever we've played anywhere else, it's like, oh, here we go. So we've kind of been overcompensating, and then when we get to our games, it's like, this is what a decent playing surface is like.
Yeah, it's been a tough one in terms of getting permanent venues. I know that for sure. And it's a good court at Doug Ellis Sports Centre. That is where the West Midlands Regional League is played, and the ball does move really nicely. It's very similar, I think, to Nottingham in that sense. Right, I want to talk more about you now, Rich. Now we've covered sort of the team games. So your story, you were playing power chair, you then quit a few years ago, and then have come back this season. First of all, talk me through how you got into the sport and your first spell playing.
Yeah, it's funny you should ask that. So how it all came about is I remember it like it was yesterday. I was actually in a nightclub, and it was the first time that I'd actually met Crumpy, and he came over to me and started talking to me and asked me whether I was aware of powerchair football. Um, and obviously, I'd never heard of the sport at that point. Um, and he said to me, like, asked me whether I'd be interested in attending training. And I, like, really big headedly and jokingly said, "Oh, I don't want to show everyone up." So um, he was like, "Well, come and prove it then." Um, so yeah, we swapped numbers, and I always remember waking up the next morning and receiving the text message saying, "You better be there at training." Um, so yeah, I went there, and I was absolutely blown away by the sport and the technicality of it, and I fell in love with it immediately.
Yeah, and obviously you fell in love with the game, as you say, and you spent the first part of your career really until you stepped away from the game at West Brom. Tell me about your time there.
Yeah, so I played for West Brom collectively probably for about 15 years. 10 of those years were in the first team, if you like. Um, and I learned so much of my craft there. Kudos to Chris Gordon, brilliant coach. And it was when we started using the 4 out system that where I developed a more array of skills, if you like. Before that, I was very much a dribbling kind of person, but using the 4 out system kind of pushed me to work on pickoffs and the importance, of those, and that kind of, upped my game. And then for the final 5 years, I then played for the Fossils, and naturally, like, my confidence was a bit low, but Paul Hunt kind of took me under his wing and really helped me to gain my confidence again. It was slightly less pressured environment, I would say. And I kind of had the freedom to have more autonomy, I'd say, over my game, and play more naturally or freely. I enjoyed playing for the West Brom and the Fossils, and they're years that I'll cherish forever.
So you loved your time at West Brom. When did you then start to feel, right, it may be time to step away? I know it was around the time of the pandemic, but why did you make that big decision in your life to move away from football?
Things happened in my personal life, like work. I work full time, and at the time I was working in education, and that kind of broke down, and that kind of affected my mental health really. And with Alice working for the NHS and her shift patterns, and the fact that West Brom used to train on I think it was a Tuesday evening, um, so I'd go a full day work, come home, go straight back out again, train till about 9 o'clock, and I was just absolutely exhausted. Um, and it just comes to a point where you kind of realize that you have to think about your own mental health, your family's stability. So I took the really difficult decision to kind of step away. It was on my mind for quite some time, but I never quite knew when the best time would be to make that decision. And even when I did make that decision, I felt like I was letting people down. And I hated that feeling, but I knew I had to do it. So I made the decision and left, and kind of worked on myself and my career, traveled a bit. And then I started seeing, uh, watching it on YouTube. Obviously, I followed it, ever since I left, constantly. But I think it was the Club Champions League that I watched, and I actually realised like how the game had progressed. with the commentary and just people's skill level. And I knew that I was missing it. And I knew that I wanted to get back into it. And I always kind of said that with how things didn't really work out at West Brom with the training and whatnot, I kind of knew that I wanted to, if I was going to go back into the game, that I wanted a fresh start, if you like. I've always like brown nosing John too much, but I've always admired John and Aspire, and I've always said that Aspire would be the only club that would be able to get me out of retirement. And then the Aspire trials came about, and I got in touch with John and asked whether that was a possibility, thinking that I wouldn't stand a chance, after not playing for 3 years. And yeah, so I went to the trials, thinking that I'd just see how I got on, and I was fully expecting to, if there was any doubt, any opportunity for me to join, that let's say come and train for a bit for a year or whatever, and then we'll look to see your progression from there. And I was absolutely blown away when John, gave me the chance to have a chance in the squad, and I'm really grateful for that.
What differences have you noticed since coming back to the game? You mentioned the streaming there and the commentary, but in terms of the play style, the opposition you're facing, the quality of the league, what have you seen since coming back to the sport that has maybe surprised you?
Yeah, just everyone level in general. To be fair, like squads who didn't necessarily play quotes football were experimenting and making the game exciting, and playing really good football. Um, and it was just so good to see. Um, and uh, and also like the professionalism, and as I mentioned before, the streams and the commentary. Like I feel like that in itself like ups the game so much, and presents powerchair football in such a good way.
Yeah, 100%. John, obviously looking at Rich as someone who stepped away from the game, came back. Why was Rich someone that you were willing to, as he said, take a chance on and let into your team?
Obviously, I've known Rich for years, and I've known what he's done in the game. He's been to many tournaments, huge range of experience, and just Rich as a person. Everyone knows that our squad is varied in talent, and it's not a squad that thrives off everyone being great. It's a community. It's a family, and Rich had fitted straight into that. And my job as a manager, as a captain, is to get everyone up to a better standard than they joined me, and that's what I want to do with Rich. Obviously, he's always had the talent. I just want him to obviously improve in certain areas, which he knows he needs to, and same with everyone in the team. And that's what I kind of like. Obviously, I'm glad Rich has joined us, but I kind of now want Rich to be my John Dixon. I want him to, I feel that I've improved John, improved Dan. I want Rich to be that next guy that takes his game to the next level. And I was really impressed with Rich at his trial, and obviously, like I said, I've known Rich for years, so I knew it'd suit our club as a whole. So it seemed to me like the perfect match.
Yeah, and Rich, you said that the only club that would get you out of retirement would be Aspire. Are you pleased with your decision? How have you enjoyed your first season? Well, it's not even finished yet, but so far at the club.
It's been absolutely fantastic, to be honest. It's I can't believe how quick it's gone as well. Like I feel like I've only just joined. Well, I have really, but it's been we're well into the season. Um, and as John mentioned, like Aspire's got such a great community, on and off the pitch. Um, and yeah, I just felt like I've gelled really well with everyone. And everyone's got each other's back, and um, that really reflects on the pitch as well, I feel.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think that is one of the main things that people sort of talk about when they speak about Aspire is that the strong sense of community and the characters. And I do think we have some of the bigger characters in the sport, which can sometimes result in, people maybe not liking us or thinking, oh, that they need to be quiet and just get on with it. But listen, we're fun. That's the thing with Aspire. Talking about fun, I want to have a bit of fun now, Rich. I did warn Rich this was coming, so you can't accuse me of putting you on the spot. You've had almost 40 minutes now to think about your answer. I want you to name your dream team. You said that you played at West Brom for a decade, so you've had plenty of experience playing alongside some fantastic players, and obviously now at Aspire, you're playing with great players as well. I'll place yourself in a team. You can put yourself either in goal or in the wing. I think John, considering how hard he's working with you on the wing, would be fuming if you stick yourself back in goal. But put yourself in a team and then ignore classification, although I don't know that will be an issue anyway. Pick 3 players that you've played with in your career to go alongside you as your dream team.
Right, okay. So obviously John is going to be in there, in the centre. And I'm sorry if he's not for entertainment value, but to be honest, a lot of most or all of the Aspire team would be on there. I wouldn't be wanting to travel the distance that I do if I didn't rate everyone. I think Marcus Harrison, he will probably be on there. Potentially in goal, I'd say. And then I've got to put Dan on there as well. He's such a good player. I'm trying to think. Who else?
You've picked your team, that's 4.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Marcus in goal's a bit risky though.
Yeah, I was gonna say Marcus in goal is a bold shout. I've seen that guy try and defend at points, and he's a fantastic player. But even he in goal I think even he'd say
there is method in my madness though. Like he's an epic dribbler, so I just think he'd just constantly just dribble it out of danger.
Yeah, you wouldn't get past that partnership of John and Marcus in the centre a lot. It would be, I think, infuriating.
Because we arguing the whole time.
yeah, true. The personality clashes. That's what I was going to say. That would certainly be a very strongly opinionated team, wouldn't it? I know Dan and Marcus go back and forth at each other. You and Dan, you and Marcus. Rich, I think you'd be putting out arguments most of the time rather than showing your best on the court. But I mean, that would be an incredible team, 100%. Obviously, Dan's someone, Rich, that I just wanted to get your thoughts on, because he's not someone that. Was he around really when you were playing, or is it only since you stepped away that he sort of moved to Aspire?
Yeah, he wasn't. I think he was very young when I was playing, and but it's really good to see his development. He's such a good person on and off the pitch, and yeah, he's a credit to the sport. He really is.
That's a lovely note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me, Rich and John. We will. Well, I'm sorry that it's been a while since the first episode, but we wanted to have substantial things to talk about. And we will be back quite a lot in the next month and a half, I assume, because the season finishes completely, really, in terms of the Cup and the League on May 9th, and then it'll be quite a long break to the Community Shield thing if we are in that. So there's going to be 2 National League weekends in the next month and a half. The Cup Day at Derby, if we pass Villa, that's on the 14th of March. You're welcome to come to Doug Ellis Sports Centre and cheer on the team. Or we're going to try and get some form of video out about it, whether that's live streaming it is something that we're going to try and do. But if we can't do that, I'll definitely record it, and there'll be highlights packages if we win. If we don't, I'm burying the footage forever. But there'll be yeah, there'll be lots of coverage of that game on social media. So follow that. That's on the 14th of March. And then we're back in National League action on the 28th and 29th. Let me know in the comments to this if there's things that you'd like to see discussed on the episode, on the podcast. I'm sure there'll be lots of special episodes over the summer when the football chills out a little bit. But if there's things that you want to hear, we've got some of the best powerchair football players in the country, and we can ask them your questions, and willing to do as many special episodes as possible, really. So I'll say again, Rich, John, thank you for joining me. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll see you in Birmingham on the 14th of March.
Come on.
Cheers, boys.